It's recording right now.
Okay, so I skipped. We're going to show you how to change out the light gasket and the light bulb in this light. And it was set up in a box. This is an Astrolight. It's the same model of manufacturer, brand 2 that you have. And basically you have a face ring, you have your lens, and then you have your lineup hole right here. And it came up with a 50-foot cord, which is nice, because as it came from the factory it looked just like this, and yours should be the same way. It should be just kind of coiled like this in a coil. And what I do is I use the hole in this coil as my workbench, because it seems to fit this lens perfectly. And then, as you'll find out, the lens and this faceplate have to be connected by this ring, which goes all the way around the light fixture, and it has 2 levels, if you will. There's a top level and a bottom level to this ring, and so that has to be seated perfectly, and as I'll show you that later. So to disassemble the unit, we take a 5/16 nut driver. This is really the best tool, I think, to use for this, because you get some torque with your hand and it's perfectly situated for the nut. So what I think would be a good idea is to have a permanent marker on hand when you do this. So what you can do is you can mark where your thread level was, so you know how tight to go. And then I also mark a couple of marks right here and here to show me where the ring's going to line up when I put it back together. So take a couple marks there, and then you're pretty much ready to go. I will show you this on the light. I'm sure you notice there's a top arrow here, and it lines up with a screw hole, which is the top of the light. This is how it installs into the niche, but this is a good indicator for where you want to be when you're putting the light back together. So then I take my 5/16 wrench, and I'm going to go ahead and loosen this bolt. I'm holding this with my fingers here so it doesn't move. You can't see that very well, but I'm just taking this loose. Now you can probably maybe get away with not taking this nut off completely. Just depends on how your light is and the gasket of your light, because that's what the major issue is to getting this thing to seat properly. Is in my case, I didn't have to. I don't think I have to take out the whole thing. You can, if you look over here, Hish, there's a kind of a pivot point right here that you can pull apart from that point, and then you should be able to unseat this ring, which, as you can see, has a bottom lip and a top lip like we talked about, and the bottom lip has to go right down here. If you can see my finger, there's a lip right there, and this lip has to go right in there. So I take that out for the meantime, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull my light. It comes just right off like that. You can see it with the lens on it and with the gasket. So what you want to do is you're going to have to take this apart. So what you can do is give it a couple of good shakes, not too hard, you want to break the bulb, but that should unseat the gasket. And if that doesn't work, you can take a non-sharp object. Don't use this file, I just happen to have it, but you're going to go ahead and pry up a little bit of a piece of the gasket, that way you can put your finger in there and then just get a little hold of it, and it comes right out like that. So I put the lens down, and then you have the bulb, and if it's loose, you can go ahead and tighten it. It's nice and tight. You might check to make sure that it's a good bulb, so just give it a shake. If you hear the filament rattling around, or something rattling around in there, you know you got a broken bulb. So that's done. We're going to put our lens back on. If the gasket gets dirty, just go ahead and wipe it off, and then we're going to go ahead and put the lens back on and make sure that the gasket is seated all the way around, and there's no kinks in it or anything, just nice and smooth and tight in there. And then we're going to find our arrow right here that says top, and we know we're going to angle that towards the hole on the light ring. And then, so what I showed here, if you want, it's supposed to have this lettering. It says to avoid shock. There's some actually embossed lettering right here on the lens I try to put that right in the middle if I can, because it'll look pretty sharp if it's at the top and rather than on the bottom. So that's done, and I'm going to go ahead and put this right back on. I'm using the arrow to line it up, and I'm using the cable as kind of a table, a work table. So what I do is I have that up there like that, and I try to make sure that I'm right in the middle of the trim ring. And there's not like a side that's up higher than the other, there's not a side that's lower, and that'll make putting on your closing ring a lot easier. So I find my marks that I made earlier with my pen, and what I do is I just kind of slide the trim ring back on, and I start by putting it underneath the lip, the small lip, and while I'm doing that I'm applying pressure with my hand at the top towards the light, and it's making that gasket compress somewhat, so it's easier for me to work with. So then I just move around the light with my hand and try to get it in place, and it should just snap in there. And make sure you're underneath the lip on the bottom, and if you are, it might help to get an assistant at this point. Hold the light ring, remember they put pressure on the light, would be easy, that way you can work on getting the ring set. So once it's there, take your driver again and just go ahead and start tightening it down. And if you can bring the camera over here, you can see right here that this thing is a little bit off. And as you tighten it up, this is going to cinch up, and then you won't have a problem. But just to make sure, you might want to make sure you're underneath the ring here at the bottom. I am in one spot, but another spot I'm not, so I have to back off. And it's actually right on this side of it. I have to back off a little bit. Give it some pressure, and then find out where it starts. There it is. It was fine over here on this side, it was actually okay, but then it just came up a little bit there. So I put pressure on the light on top so the gasket compresses, and then I got that to snap right underneath the bottom lip. And it's good over here, and we should be ready to go ahead and crank it down. There again, maybe have an assistant have some pressure on this while you're doing this to make sure that you're still going to be right on the bottom lip. So I can see my mark I made for the tightness of it, so I'm getting close to there. And as I compress this ring, it's actually compressing the gasket and making it a watertight seal. So you're almost there. This one's nice and tight. Okay, I think we're about there. There you go. Okay, at this point, pick up your light. Everything looks good in between there. There's no gaps. You got the lettering here looking good, and then you're ready to install. And that's it.